Let's look at the activity Fun with Friction. In this activity bag, we have provided you with cars and 3 sheets of completely different textures. One is felt, one is handmade paper, and one is sandpaper. So as you know, they all 3 have very different textures and are very different to touch and feel. We've also provided you with the activity instruction manual, of course, as well as an experiment observation log A4 laminated sheet, which will be there in the toolbox, as this is common to both this activity as well as the other activity separating substances. This activity also makes use of this beautiful sunboard called experiment observation log. So the experiment observation log and the experiment observation log A4 size are both very similar. Let's see how to perform this activity. So this is basically an experiment where students get to have fun experimenting with the concept of friction. Now, friction is one of those physics concepts that students learn best when they actually have hands-on experience with it. In order to do this, some additional materials that you will be required to use from school or bring from home are, you will need a stack of books. Place the books one on top of the other as shown in this image in the manual. And then you need a strip of cardboard. You can take it from any old cardboard box or anything like that. Place the cardboard like this, leaning from the books so that it forms an incline or a ramp. This is needed so that students will then be able to roll the car down the ramp and see how far it travels. So what you will do along with your students is construct this first, have them place books one on top of the other, place the piece of cardboard, and then at the bottom they need to place each of these 3 different sheets one by one. So first the felt sheet, then the handmade paper, then the sandpaper. Have the students place one of the sheets. They will then place the car at the top of the ramp, release it so that it rolls down. It will roll over the paper placed at the bottom. And then students have to see how far the car moves or travels before it stops. The point at which it stops will have to be marked with chalk or a piece of tape. Students will then repeat the experiment with the other 2 pieces of paper provided, and in each case they will mark the spot where the car stops moving. Students will then compare the distance to see with which paper did the car travel the longest distance and with which paper did it travel the shortest distance. Use this information to then ask children to think about why did the car travel different distances on the different pieces of paper. Have them think about what could be the reason behind this. Talk about how the different textures of the materials provided different levels of friction to the car. So as you can see, this discussion is just a starting point for you and your students to then continue talking about friction. Rather, ensure that you have your students do as much of this activity by themselves as possible. After the completion of the activity, when students have finished all the steps, have them then record on this observation log or on the observation log board. If you are using this, make sure you have photocopies so that there is 1 copy for every student. Now you and your students, or rather you can lead your students into analyzing or summarizing the experiment they have just performed. So students should be encouraged to think about, what did I do? So what was the experiment they performed? What did I observe? What did they observe happen? Help students to think through the steps and to write down their observations. And finally, what did I learn? So by conducting this experiment, what did the students learn about the concept of friction? So as you can see, this experiment log is a great way to promote scientific thinking in students. It's also a fantastic way for them to practice their writing skills. Now you can also choose to have the students summarize their experience with this experiment on the board. And on the board, you can invite different students to come up and take turns writing on the board with a sketch pen. As you know, at the end of the activity, the board can very neatly be erased with a wet cloth and it will be completely clean. And once students have written their observations, you can display the board in your classroom for your students to keep seeing for a few days and keep remembering what they have done, the experiment that they performed. This will also allow them to keep remembering the concept of friction. Now, the interesting thing about this board and this log sheet is that both of these can be used not just with this activity, Fun with Friction, but with any activity or any experiment in which the students are doing some hands-on learning. any activity in which they have done something themselves, made some observations, you can then use this board to promote scientific thinking and to help the students recall and remember what they did and then remember the concept that they have learned.